The following is a member of the Burke Reviews podcast family. BurkeReviews.com.
Top 5 movies. Top 5. Top 5 movies. Top 5 movies. Top 5 movies. Top 5 movies.
Hey everybody, welcome to Top 5 Movies. It's me, John Burke, with Corey Starr.
Hello.
And our special guest this week, and I hope Alejandro told me to say this correctly, Jamie Jung, correct?
There you go. Perfect, Jamie Jung. Yep.
I'm so proud of you, John.
I did my research, sir. See, Jamie, you may not know this about me, but I am notoriously bad at pronouncing last names. So I went to Alejandro, I was like, tell me how I'm supposed to say this so I don't screw it up on the podcast, because it's bad enough when the person's not with me, but when the person's talking to me, I have to at least look like I know what I'm doing. So
yeah. No, spot on. Well done, sir.
And Jamie is an actor, and I don't want to short credit you. Is that where you place yourself? Are you an actor? Are you a filmmaker? Like, do you have other?
I'm an actor, yeah.
And
we'll probably talk about that later. Getting into filmmaking, yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in.
Well, I met Alejandro, who directed a film for Rebel Without a Crew called Monday, and Jamie is the lead actor in that film. Both Corey and I have been fortunate enough to see the movie, so I'm glad Corey was able to join us on the episode tonight, because we both have seen you act. And I gotta say, sir, I enjoyed Monday very much, and the comedic timing I thought that you brought to the film was great, so I'm really glad to get to talk to you.
Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate you getting a chance to look it over and give your critical eye to it.
Well, I keep trying to develop my critical eye. It's something that I've become obsessively passionate about over the last 3 years. But yeah, film is, I realized a few years ago that film was like my first love. Like, I remember being like 2 years old and seeing Ghostbusters for the first time, and just, I love movies and I love talking about them, and it seems to be the only thing that my brain will retain. Like, I remember when a movie came out, but I can't tell you any historical significance outside of movies. But, that's what, you just follow what you're good at. And so far, talking about movies, that's my thing. Jamie.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us, like, where are you from?
Well, I'll keep it short. My dad was in the U.S. Air Force. So I was born in Missouri, lived in Japan for a little bit, England, Texas, Germany, New York.
Oh, man.
My parents are semi-retired in New Mexico at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
And did you know Alejandro before you worked on the film?
I met Alejandro auditioning for the short film Monday about maybe 2.5 years ago.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize the short was that much older. I didn't have the timetable on that. That's interesting. So you guys stayed in contact enough that when he did the feature that he pulled you in?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, he's always wanting to turn his short films into features. It's just a matter of finding the financing, finding the right opportunity, and he was just telling me little bits and pieces about this unnamed project, which eventually turned out to be Rebel Without a Crew, the series. And we got more and more excited about it, and then all of a sudden, he didn't have a cell phone anymore. They took his cell phone, gave him his own cell phone, and he was in Austin, and I was still trying to confirm when I should be there, when everybody else was flying in, how, the mechanics of the whole project.
Yeah.
So it was really exciting. A lot of these things, you just gotta go for it. You just gotta jump off, and the net will appear type deal. And so I'm super glad that we took this adventure, because, man, it's one hell of an adventure. I don't know if you've been watching the reality TV show.
I have. Yeah, I love this show. In fact, I teach high school film. That's my day job, and then I do the reviews and the podcast. It's a business, but it's a hobby business. You know what I'm saying? Like, not a whole lot of profit to be made from blogging, but at least not at my early stage and my lack of fame and contacts. But I actually brought like some of my students who are wanting to be filmmakers. I was like, you need to watch this show just to see, the process, and also the fact that you can make quality content with almost no money, and don't let that be a reason you don't make something, because I have a student wrote a feature-length screenplay, and he's been working real hard to he's cast like friends of his. I mean, they just graduated high school, so they're in the process of shooting a feature. Really fragmented, like there's weeks in between shoots, so it's really a challenge for him, but he's sticking to it and he's trying really hard. And I think Rebel Without a Crew just does a great job of showing the whole process, and the struggles that you guys go through, and also the successes that you guys have on the show. Plus, it's really entertaining. Listeners, it's free to watch on go90.com, or you can download the Go90 app, and I think it's even on the El Rey Tumblr page, if I have understood that correctly.
Exactly, yeah, and it'll be on El Network later this year.
Which is, if you have that as part of your cable package or your streaming services, there's another way to view it. But if you don't want to wait, like, I've been too impatient to wait. Although I have to say, I'm not used to, like, a weekly show anymore, because I generally just watch stuff on Netflix, or, like, even Amazon tends to drop the whole, like, at least half the season. So waiting week to week has been tough, but I've done it, and I've enjoyed every week. So I think we get a new episode tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, too. So
are the episodes an hour?
And
they're like 22 minutes.
A week from tomorrow, you're going to get to binge the whole season.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So everything comes out next week, I take it then. That'll be the last episode?
Episode 12 comes out a week from tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't been watching it, yeah, definitely go back and watch all of it. It is very easy to watch, and I'll tell you, not binging kind of sucked, because there were some major cliffhangers left on episodes where, like, it would just be like at a key moment, and they're like, next week. I'm like, no, I need to know what happens. But yeah, some really great stuff.
They're too short, and they really cut those little stories, how they separate them out, especially in the pre-production stage. They're very clear stages. That it feels like, there's like a meat cleaver right in the middle. There
is.
And for me, I didn't get to see a lot of these different stories with the different filmmaking teams, so I'm getting a whole new perspective on it as well. And we were shooting at nights. The other crews were primarily shooting in the days.
Yep.
So it was, we were all kind of isolated in a lot of ways from the series experience. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and every crew has something going on. Like, I have not got to see most of the features. I actually have seen Bola's feature as well. So I've seen Alejandro's and Bola's, and just crazy what you guys were able to do. If you're not familiar with the premise, listeners, Rebel Without a Crew is also the name of Robert Rodriguez's book, which was the diary of his process of making his film El Mariachi, where he made a movie in 14 days with a $7,000 budget. So he's given 5 directors that same opportunity, 14 days, $7,000, and a little more access than what he had, because there's sets and things that he has given access to, some props and stuff like that. But nonetheless, still a tremendous challenge. I mean, just the episode where they cast the rest of their people is intense. Like, it's like a 2-hour casting call, and it's basically like them walking through a herd of cattle. And not to use Alfred Hitchcock's comparison to actors to cattle, I am in no way implying that. Just saying, like, the way that everyone's in one room and they're literally, like, auditioning in one corner, and you can hear the other people auditioning in the other corner, because there's no time to do it any other way. It's crazy.
Very stressful.
Oh, yeah. In that episode, I think you really see the directors all freaking out. Like, who do we take? And, of course, there's even some, like, rivalry almost a little bit with that, because they both want one person, or they want this person to be this guy, and he has another opportunity. I mean, it's crazy. Jamie didn't have to go through that part, though. Good for Jamie. Yeah, and it's, from what I can recall on the show, and I don't remember sometimes what I got after the episodes air. Alejandro was really good at telling me nothing, but like as soon as I finished watching an episode, I'm like messaging him like, hey, what was this about, and how did this happen? So I might know things that I shouldn't know from like talking to him outside of the show, but I feel like he seemed to be the only director who had people coming in already for the cast. Like he had you. I am going to forget your co-stars' names at the top of my head, who is also, I think, his +1 on the set.
Well, our +1 was Ryan Halsey.
Yes.
So he was our cinematographer. He also runs a company called Serious Grippage and Lighting in Albuquerque. So he knows his way around lighting equipment, knows his way around a camera. He was our +1. Every filmmaker was allowed a +1, and that could be a cinematographer, an AD, an actor. It was that person that they thought had the most to contribute from back home. Yeah. And one of the other filmmakers, they did bring their +1 was the lead actor. That was Josh's in The Good Exorcist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's correct. And then who am I thinking of? Kenneth is who I'm thinking of, because Kenneth is seen with Alejandro a whole lot, and so I assume from Alejandro's current Instagram, because he's been traveling with you guys, just did a screening back in New Mexico too, right?
Yeah, we were at the New Filmmakers award ceremony a couple weeks ago. So that was the three of us and Kika, who was the lead actress, and Leslie. And we all met up for a screening in Albuquerque last weekend, which was amazing. We finally got to really open this film up a little bit more. We can really feel the momentum and really, reach out to this New Mexico family. My parents live there. My sister flew in from Boston with her roommate. They've been going crazy about the reality show. They're really into reality TV, and just really allowing our New Mexico film supporters to kind of take a peek and know what we've been talking about this whole time, because we've been talking about it for close to a year now.
Yeah.
And the actual films have been pretty under wraps. I mean, you see a little bit of those plots, a little bit of the scene when you're looking at the behind the scenes as they're filming the docuseries. But yeah, really opening that up has just been so exciting. And we're going to New York City in a couple of weeks with that at the Soho Film Festival.
Which that'll be awesome, man. That's such a cool. I'm glad. And then there's another festival too, I think, right? Like there's something in LA coming up down the road, I think.
Yes, Holly Shorts. We're going to be at the TCL Chinese Theaters in August.
I'm trying to get Alejandro to. There's a Orlando Film Festival in October that he's looking at, hoping to get you guys down to my neck of the woods at some point. Because one of the problems with I actually have been to a lot of film festivals this year. I got to go to South by and Tribeca in New York and our local Florida Film Festival, and I've seen all these great films, and I keep telling people about them, and like, well, how can I watch them? I'm like, okay, so right now you can't.
That's the worst.
But write it down. So yeah, I'm hoping to get you guys out here at the latest next Florida Film Festival, which would be in April, but. He found this Orlando Film Festival that we're just starting to look at the details, but
okay.
I'd love for that to happen because this is my area and I can definitely bring a crowd.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we want to shout it from the rooftops. We're really excited. We feel like Robert was able to give us this new platform, like he built for himself, but this new platform to say yes, it's possible to a whole new generation of filmmakers, and we have that responsibility to really. Yeah. Communicate that to a whole world of digital filmmakers like your students, to say yes, it is possible. There's a million different obstacles, but it's just taking away those obstacles. You don't need what Hollywood tells you need.
For sure.
You don't need what you go to see in the cinema down the street. You can still make a perfectly serviceable movie. You can even make a very beautiful movie, a movie that really moves people, that changes the arcs of a person's career, their livelihood, their romantic involvements with somebody, with a smartphone in your backyard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and
it's powerful stuff.
I love that Robert chose to do a reality show and not make it like a competition. Every filmmaker gets the same opportunities. Every filmmaker is going to get to show their film. Like it wasn't like the best film gets to go to South by. All 5 filmmakers get to premiere their movie. Like that to me is the best part of it. It's not like competition show. It's literally like, how is this done? What's the process? It's more like a documentary series than anything else, and it's just a really cool. If you're into movies, if you're ever been curious about the process of making a movie, it's such a cool TV series, and the fact that you can watch it for free on the Go90 network, or wait for it to show up on your TV providers at the El Rey network, it's awesome. So it's cool that you get to be a part of that, and honestly, Alejandro doing an action comedy, which I won't spoil anything about the movie outside of that, but choosing an action comedy with a $7,000 budget and seeing what you guys were able to pull off with that is insane to me. Like, some of the special effects, the humor in it, and the chemistry between you and Kenneth I thought was really great.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the competition in Alejandro, too, really pushing the envelope for himself, adding value to himself, because, when you work on larger budgeted projects, there is a tendency to just throw money at a problem. And when you're doing something smaller, you kind of want to stick to your strength, stick to what's safe, be conservative with choices. But if you push that and say, no, I don't have to do it this way. Let me see if I can make the best action comedies. Let's see if I can make a feature for very little money with, the comedic timing of actors we don't know. Typically you have to make a comedy with bankable names. An action movie requires a lot of money for all the different special effects, the practical ones and the ones that you're inserting in post-production. But that was part of the challenge, part of the competition within the competition that Alejandro really wanted to bring to the table.
Yeah, he definitely didn't write something that would be super easy in the premise. Like, he could have done like an indie coffee drama, where you guys just sit around and vent about your lives.
Exactly, yeah. It could have been a Noah Baumbach, really, strong dialogue, but very simple, basic set.
And not to diss those, I love a lot of those films, but I mean, he pushed himself and still managed to create characters that had some depth. Like, I really want to rewatch the film because seeing a movie once is not always enough to retain everything. But my reaction to it, because I went in apprehensive, knowing very little at the time about what Rebel Without a Crew was, and I get screeners sent to me all the time that are sometimes good movies, but a lot of times they're just things that I would have not even known existed had I not received an email. And sometimes those are not easy to sit through. So I went in like, okay, give this a chance. Hopefully, it's at least something I can sit through and not feel like I have to turn it off or whatever. And I'm not trying to act like a snob or anything like that, but Monday blew me away with that because it doesn't look like a $7,000 film. The performances don't feel like it's, and I mean, even if you look at El Mariachi, while it's a masterpiece in some ways, it's also, you can see that it's a $7,000 film, and I don't feel that way when I watch Monday, which I think it speaks obviously to the technology, because we have come a long way, and at the very least in the way of cameras, right? Because Robert had to use the old school camera with film that was so loud that he couldn't use any of the audio that he recorded, and had to do all overdubbing. Like, I mean, that alone has been a big,
unbelievable,
huge time saver. But nonetheless,
and we had an audio problem with one of our scenes, that we really struggled to overcome, doing an ADR session at the last minute in January, so that post-production could continue, so that Alejandro could throw that into the mix and keep going.
Man, see, yeah, and that's something my students, we run into that problem all the time, because a lot of times we're filming like during our school day, and so there's kids walking through the halls to go to the bathroom or whatever, and if they see a camera, they're gonna jump in front of it, like that's just the non-film students' reaction. So they're constantly having to stop filming, or there's background noise or something, and they're always like, and they're so afraid to ADR. I mean, we don't have like a great setup to ADR. We basically would be sitting next to the computer and just overdubbing right there, rather, like, we don't have a good soundproof booth or anything. But still, like, they're just so afraid of doing it, and I'm just like, that's what movies do, guys, I swear. Like, it's a real thing. I'm not making it up for you. But
I don't know where I heard this about Scorsese, right? He was saying that in every movie, he still does this to this day, he has his lead actors like turning away from the camera or covering their mouths with a phone or something, so that he can insert in ADR bits of narration that help with the story that he was not able to capture in production.
Oh, wow.
It's a fail-safe that he's invented for himself. And I don't know, sounds like something I would keep as a filmmaker. I would learn from that.
Well, that's, to me, like, making movies is all about solving problems anyways. Like, it's figuring out, like, okay, if this is impossible to do in real life, how do we do it to make it look like it's real? And then you get some just insane films as a result of people thinking like that. And, man, that's one of the reasons I love movies.
They always think that they're going to get the opportunity later where everything's in place to fix something that can be fixed now or can be curbed now. And we should try to address that now. That they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to pay money for it later. We can just work on ourselves as actors or DPs, directors. We need to be the best that we can be with the limitations we have right now, right today. Mm-hmm. That's something that Rebel Without a Crew and just Robert, having read that book, the commentary, it's that inspiration to really keep working on yourself every day and not blaming anybody around you, not blaming a system, not blaming any obstacle that's in your way.
I think this is a good time to ask you, when did you first know that you wanted to be an actor?
Well, I was always a ham, I think. I did, in 4th grade, Santa's Gone Hip. Oh. I played Santa.
Okay. That sounds like a fun play.
Yeah, it was really cute. I would do all the little musicals, and I always did choir. I liked singing.
Okay.
But when I went to high school and being a part of these mostly military schools, they didn't really put a lot of emphasis on the arts.
Oh yeah.
They didn't make me think that it was a viable career path. So I always had in the back of my mind, well, what should I do? Something with math and science, I guess.
Yeah.
Engineering, putting stuff together, figuring out how the world works. And that was like the broader idea. It always was. How does the world work? Putting together computers, putting together robots. I didn't know a lot about it, but I had an interest in it. So I went to university to study engineering. And that was a total failure. That was a terrible year. Yeah. But, you gotta jump. You gotta say, this is what I'm doing, in order to realize that's not what you're doing at all. That's not what you're meant to be doing at all. So I was knocking on a lot of doors at that. It was Queen Mary College of the University of London.
Oh, wow.
I chose that because it was kind of like an in-state school for me, because my parents were still in Germany, and my mother's English. And I'd spent 3 years in England previously, and I wanted to kind of reconnect with my roots, and it was just down the street from where she was born and grew up, in Leytonstone.
Oh, wow.
So knocking on doors, I didn't know what I was going to do, and I had to, in England, most of Europe, you kind of have to do what you're studying. Your major is all 3 years. There's no general education courses for 2 years. There is in the States.
Oh.
So I knew I was going to have to start over again. I didn't know of other colleges, or I was just knocking on doors, hoping someone could throw me a lifeline. And the day before I went to I went on this little field trip up to the Mini Factory in Oxfordshire. I knocked on the drama department, and I had scheduled an interview with them the following day. So in between, I'm going up to this Mini Factory and thinking, I hope that works. I should probably go on this field trip, because I'm still an engineering student for another month, and it sounds like fun. And I had an epiphany at this factory. This factory worker, I was the first one to get into this area of the factory. Big hulking guy with safety goggles. He turns around, boom, taps me on my hands. I just raised my hands, and he dropped this screw into my hand. And everybody else is walking through, just behind me, like he doesn't exist. Like I'm not just standing in the middle of everybody. They're all passing around me like a crowd of salmon. And I'm just thinking to myself about this screw, and it doesn't mean the engineering thing that it should mean, bringing two pieces of metal together. To me, it means that I'm supposed to be bringing people together. I'm bringing hearts together. It sounds sentimental, but it hit me like a lightning bolt. It was an extraordinary epiphany for me. And I knew that the next day when I went back to Queen Mary and I interviewed for a department which I was totally unqualified. I didn't have A levels, O levels, nothing like that. I just had an interest in drama. I just knew I'd get it. I just knew they'd let me in. And I just poured my heart out the next day to Martin Welton, the head of the department, and they let me in.
Wow, man.
And I found my tribe. Everybody talked like me, thought like me. I studied performance studies for 3 years. And then I wanted to really get a clearer, a more specific understanding of where I could meet the business of acting. And so I've been going to an acting coach briefly, because I went to the Royal Court Theatre. I studied playwriting for a minute while I was at Queen Mary. Met a really good group of guys there. And one of them was like, oh, if you are looking for like more mainstream understanding of acting, Stanislavski approach, breaking down scripts, blah, 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 you should go to my acting coach. So I went to him for a while, Putney Bridge. He's a guy that lives in Los Angeles right now, Paul Gregory. And he said, I can't recommend you any drama school other than the Stella Adler Studio of Acting in New York City, because my previous client who just left me, she went to that school, and I'm hearing really good things about it. So I applied for that and like maybe another school, but I just knew that I was going to get into that school, and I did. And my parents by that time had moved to New York. My dad was working at West Point, and so I was commuting down. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, right? It's about like jumping. It's about making these connections, really seeing a path for yourself, making a mythology for yourself. I love that. And it's really, I don't know, it's worked out for me in a lot of ways. You know, so I did that for 3 years. I had an incredible time. I really understood things from the ground up, voice and speech, scene studies, Shakespeare. In the third year, we did production after production with these directors. They brought them, and we were doing these shows in-house, so we had a little bit of a safety net there. And they were kind of, you know, in terms of casting and in terms of how these directors were working with us. And then we would have like a voice and speech instructor, a dialect coach, movement coach, that kind of thing, to really work out what life would be like beyond the walls in this safe environment that we were still in. Well, after that, I was in New York for another 2 years, just trying to figure out. I'm like, hey, I'm in New York. I've been here for 3 years. What the hell is this city like? I haven't gotten a chance to really see the, you know, see the business of this. I hadn't been auditioning because I've been in school, you know, 9 to 5 for 3 years. I did the New York Renaissance Fair one of the summers. But besides that, I didn't have a lot of experience with the business of acting in New York City. And I was auditioning. I was always working those 2 years, so that was good. But so many of the auditions I was going on and some of the plays I was doing were musicals. I was like, I don't really know if this is me. This is why I got into all this. I was working at Second Stage Theater Company, helping with subscriptions, and there was a bit of information we were giving over the phone saying, like, you guys have to really be part of this community. The theater community in New York has flipped. 20 years ago, 80% of theater goers were from the metropolitan area, and 20% were tourists. And now it's flipped. 80% are tourists, 20% are from the metro area, and that changes the programming. That's why you see all these, just like in film, right? You're seeing these huge blockbusters with increasingly few little dialogue because it translates better to tourists, people outside of the English-speaking world. And I've been seeing off-Broadway being populated by celebrity after celebrity. You know, Daniel Craig was Iago at the New York Theater Workshop. Jeff Daniels was in Blackbird somewhere, MTC, one of those. I was just like, oh my God. What? I don't see the upward mobility here. So my parents, in the meantime, had moved to New Mexico. Sorry, this is a long story, but it all adds up. Yeah, it does. My parents had moved to New Mexico, and I was visiting them on holidays, and I was like, God, it's gorgeous out here. You can just see forever. And that was so weird being in Manhattan, and you can't see in front of your face. You know, these skyscrapers, and it's just anyway.
Big difference.
Just such a breath of fresh air. Oh my God, so beautiful. So dramatic, so natural. And there was a lot of film going on there. They actually call it Somalywood.
Oh.
Hollywood films there so often. They have big studios out there, Albuquerque Studios, I-25, Santa Fe Studios. They have some agents and casting directors, so I started hanging around. I started working with the Fusion Theater Company. They're the only equity playhouse in the entire state, and I found them extremely welcoming. They were doing incredible work. I did a play, Hand to God, and I was interviewed by the New York Times.
Oh wow!
For that production, because that play was I think it was that season. That play, Hand to God, was the only straight American play on Broadway. And for those reasons, I left, and I was able to do that play regionally. So that was kind of a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
And then I started working my way within the film industry. And one of those first opportunities was auditioning for and getting to work on the short film Monday with Alejandro.
Man, so are you leaning like towards film, or do you want to stay in theater? Like, do you have a preference?
I love the fact that actors are trained in the theater, and I like when actors keep the theater in them. The theater is an actor's blood. It really shows you that an actor is an actor when they do theater. But I do want to do increasingly more film. I love indie cinema, especially having worked with Alejandro and with this Rebel project. I've seen indie cinema on Netflix. I've been following little filmmaking teams here and there, but being in the mix and having it be such a collaborative art form is something I'm just really excited about pursuing. But I do keep theater in my life. I'm currently rehearsing a play, Slaughter City, with the Courage Theater Company, and we're opening at the Lancashire Arts Center in NoHo. Here in North Hollywood, from mid-June to mid-July, 22 June to 14 July. So if any of your listeners are in Los Angeles, say what you wish, and it's a really exciting play. And an incredible theater company. They're very thoughtful.
So man, that's one of the things I like to talk about with my guest, because I teach high school film, so some of my kids are making decisions about college, and there's always a debate whether or not to go into film school or acting school, depending on what part of film they've really latched onto. It sounds like you found a lot of benefit with taking acting classes. Would you recommend that for inspiring actors?
100%. You got to have a foundation for yourself. And you also, when you come to LA, you can't let other people tell you how to act. You can't let other people tell you what's right, what's wrong, because everybody's going to tell you something different. Everybody's going to try to sell you on their book, on their technique. So you need to come here with your head straight.
That's I've been watching, I don't know if you watch HBO TV series, but Bill Hader has a show called Barry out right now, where he's a hitman who finds that he has a passion for acting, and it's a big part of it is him like in a theater troupe, and it's great. It's very funny, like kind of dark satirical comedy, but and Bill Hader's playing it very straight actually, which is one of the interesting things about the show. He's so associated with comedic acting that he's kind of
I love that guy.
Yeah, it's great. Highly recommend it. It's 8 episodes, all like sitcom length, like 22 to 30 minutes. Just ended like a week ago. It's fantastic. Really recommend. Okay. Not to talk about other people's stuff, but we don't. So I always send a lot of questions ahead of time because I don't. My goal isn't to catch you off guard or like put you on the spot kind of thing. And I also really just like to have a conversation, which that's how this whole episode started. It was unplanned. Let's talk about Monday in great detail, but just a heads up, and this is behind the curtains, listener, but we may not get to all the questions because I don't like to keep you for too long, but I am going to try to hit some of these, the ones that I'm like most intrigued by. But if there's anything that you were like, I want to tell you this, feel free to just jump into that, because I totally want to hear like the story. You apologize for it, but that's what I want to hear, man. I love hearing like the passion that you have for the craft that you're building, because that's on my end. People often will look at me and like I can tell they've heard enough about movies out of my mouth, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is literally all I have to talk about is like but so yeah, I love hearing other people have passion for something, and it sounds like you do, and that's it shows in the. I haven't seen a lot of your work, mind you. I've only seen Monday, but it's clear that you put a lot into the character and being in the movie, and that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I enjoy the most is the process of it. Getting to know my fellow actors, getting to develop our characters together, and that's what I like about theater too. Is you really get the time to do that. You really get you get into the detail of it, the grit of it. You really get to get messy, get dirty sometimes when you know that is not what is called for, and eventually. But in film, sometimes as an actor, you have so little time, to adjust to something, or but by the time, like a lot of these co-stars and guest stars, and they're not, co-stars and guest stars aren't sometimes a lot to work with anyway. But you audition for it and you're filming in the next couple of days.
Well, I mean, even
but that's why indie cinema, like, you can expand that if that's what the director wants to treat it more as a theatrical experience. He wants to delve into the relationships a little bit more, have certain exercises that he wants, or he wants to tell the story in a non-linear way that's anti-Hollywood, but fuck it, this isn't going into wide release, that kind of thing. It gets me excited.
And there's always, I mean, that's the thing too, is like there's always that chance that you just hit gold, and while it wasn't intended to be wide release, it just clicks with audiences and people just see it. And I do think a lot of times those are those movies with those relationships where those characters mean something. We care about their outcome and we just latch on. And while it doesn't have explosions or, over the top special effects, there's something so human about the movie that everybody just attaches to it. I mean, that even the most successful blockbusters, there's that personal level attachment to somebody in that movie that make people keep going back and seeing it again, with the exception of Avatar, and I still can't understand why that movie made so much money.
It's your favorite movie, and I'm going to get you a super special edition for your birthday.
No.
So. And then I'm never invited back.
Yeah.
Sever ties.
But speaking of working with people, though, is there a director or like actor that you would most like to work with, or both?
Well, it's funny. We were talking about Noah Baumbach just briefly.
Yeah.
About how those are very simple sets. They're very mundane. But my brand, what I love, is taking the ordinary and making it extraordinary. Finding the magic within these ordinary moments, and not necessarily like the Steven Spielberg way of
like making it magical.
Ordinary kids. Yeah, and then an alien or an alternate with Hook or something that gets spirited away to Never Never. It's more about like in a Noah Baumbach film where they talk in dialogue. It's a little much. It's a little heightened sometimes. It's a little powerful. It's a little rhythmic. It captures more of that ordinary speech or that ordinary scenario that we encountered once. But it ratchets it up a notch. And I love shit like that. And you get to focus a little bit more on the performances. It's a little bit more character-based than plot-based. That's a director I'd love to be able to work with.
For sure. I mean, you look at, too, like Greta Gerwig, who just did Lady Bird, who worked with Noah Baumbach on a couple of films beforehand, and then Wes Anderson and Baumbach have worked together several times, and they all have that similar, very dialogue, very character-heavy movies, a lot of times mundane scenarios. I mean, Lady Bird could be less fantastic than it is, but, man, what a story, what characters, and God, I've not forgotten a moment from that movie since I saw it, and had to see it 2 other times in the theater, totaling 3 just in the theater. But yeah, I would agree. Did you catch the Meyerowitz the Meyerowitz stories? Excuse me.
On Netflix, yeah.
Yeah.
On Dustin Hoffman.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
been my idol forever. So I'm actually gonna get to see The Graduate on the big screen next Saturday.
Man. That's awesome.
At the Ace Hotel.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
That's a movie Corey has not seen yet, and it's on her gap list. I'm trying to get her to remedy.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts me. You have to see this movie.
Yeah.
I know. I want to see it when they rescreen it
Movie of a
again. But
generation.
Yeah, well, she just
Yeah.
watched Wayne's World 2, and I pointed out to her that she saw a parodied version of the ending of The Graduate, but...
I wish you wouldn't have told me
There you
that.
go.
So when I watched The Graduate, it was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, I realized after I told you that you would never have known that if I hadn't pointed it out, and I was like,
Yeah.
oops, that's kind of a
Way to go.
spoiler, but
I'm
it's your
kidding.
fault. It's an old movie, Corey. It's an old movie. You can
It
see
is, but there are too many movies. Like, we can't see every movie ever made, so we have to
Oh,
keep these lists that
challenge
never
accepted.
end. Challenge accepted. Okay, because there are new ones being made every day.
To be fair, I've seen almost all of the new ones.
At least start working your way down the AFI, and
Yeah.
then see what's up. I guess.
Word.
Yeah, and we do another podcast called Movie Club where we both pick a movie every other week that one of us has never seen. We just went through like Paul Thomas Anderson's films that we hadn't seen, which for me is still too many.
Nice.
I've not seen, but it's basically a challenge to each other to try to expand our movie watching.
And to mark things
Yeah.
off the
So
list.
Phantom Thread.
Oh yeah,
Loved
yeah,
it.
love Phantom Thread.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just
So
watched
funny.
his first film, Hard 8, this past week. Yeah, good movie, but not definitely. You see like the seeds of who he'll be as a filmmaker, like his long takes that he loves. Like you see those even in this early film, but it's plot wise is definitely very weak. But it's also his shortest movie that I've seen so far. It's only like an hour and 45 minutes. I feel like he probably didn't get to make the original script. He probably had to trim a bunch of stuff out in order to make budget or something. But yeah, it's still great, like overall, but it definitely compared to like we watched Boogie Nights, Inherent Vice, and Magnolia this month, and I mean we ended on the weakest for sure, but it's still a good movie, mind you. Speaking
Now
of,
they will say There Will Be Blood again on at the big screen.
I need to see that.
I forgot how great that movie was. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's got to be in my top 10. It's not in my top 5. I think it's in my top 10 though.
Yeah, that movie's fantastic.
Love that
I mean,
one.
just that scene about the milkshake alone is insane. And my daughter is starting high school this coming year, and making me feel sad and old at the same time. And I'm challenging her because she's been my little film watching buddy for a couple of years now. So I've got her watching 30 movies over her summer vacation that basically are from
nice.
like my 90s like high school experience. So like Fight Club, The Matrix, Seven, like a bunch of things that she somehow have not seen to this day. So she's up for the challenge.
How old did you say she was?
I
She's
know.
14.
I was like, 7.
Yeah,
Ooh.
she's 14. I'm pushing some boundaries, but
I feel like we watched those movies much
I
younger
did.
than that.
I was
She'll
like
be fine.
12 when I saw Seven, so
Whoa.
I have not watched Seven since I was 12, mind you, and I still remember like every detail of that movie because of how shocked I was to watch it. So I'm hoping to rewatch that one with her actually. But yeah, I know, but I'm a Fincher fan, so I had to squeeze both Fight Club and Seven into her 30 movies. It was hard not to put Social Network and Zodiac on that list, but I was trying to keep it. It's predominantly 90s movies, so I was trying to keep like a theme going. But
Nice.
That's awesome.
is there a franchise, Jamie, that you would like to be a part of? Like if you could be, maybe I don't know. I'm trying to think of a superhero, Plastic Man in the DC movies. Maybe they'll bring in somebody less dark and brooding in the DC universe. We need a little light in that side, or Marvel or Star Wars, which seems to just be pumping out the movies every year now, or Avatar.
I don't watch franchise movies. I know that sounds snobby, but I go and see them only to know what the hell everybody's talking about. Even this is gonna sound sacrilege, but even Lord of the Rings, I'm like, okay, looks pretty. That's about it.
Oh no.
Lord of the Rings is a little long-winded, I gotta say. Like, I enjoyed them the first time.
Yeah.
Every time I've tried to rewatch them, I'm like, you know what? I get it. I'm done.
I think that they're just so good on the big screen. I feel like there are just some movies that they're so great in the theater, but then
that's
it's
true of
I
Avatar.
I could see being in like if Christopher Nolan kept making the Batman movies. Yeah.
So like if
if
we
be
get
another
like,
villain, I mean those. Heath Ledger, Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson. Yeah. Fuck yeah. That'd be amazing.
So if we can get an art house style director back into one of these movies, you're in. So
exactly.
there it is. That's I mean, honestly, that's the downside because they have been doing that with I mean, not quite there with like Marvel, but like even Kong Skull Island, the director Jordan Voight Roberts, I think is his name. His first movie was like The Kings of Summer, I believe, which is like super indie, drama with the kid whose name I'm not going to remember now, but Nick Offerman plays the dad. Like and Nick Offerman loves doing the indie films, and
I love Nick
that's
Offerman.
been a trend, man. Like you get the art house movie that does well, and then they pull you into a franchise, and then a lot of the franchises don't do well, and it's not because of the director. I mean, the director, he's still trying to do his thing, but I mean, look at Ryan Coogler and Black Panther this year. Coogler's first film, Fruitvale Station, is super indie, amazing movie, and then Creed is even a blockbuster, really, and Creed was fantastic. And then here comes Black Panther, huge blockbuster. We have great character work, but the special effects in Black Panther, especially the end fight, get a little choppy by comparison to, like, if you look at Infinity War, where you have the Russo brothers who'd already done Civil War and Winter Soldier. You see that difference. And same thing, Taika Waititi, directed Thor Ragnarok, but did Hunt for the Wilder People and What We Do in the Shadows beforehand, and a few other indie films. And then he comes to Ragnarok, brings that character sensibility. I think you get the best version of Thor we've had. Yet the special effects are super weak by comparison, again, to the other Marvel movies. And it's not the budget. It's I think the director not maybe knowing how to do the special effects, or
I don't know. I don't really know how to interpret what a director is doing with these.
I agree.
These tentpole movies. I mean, I'm sure there's like the same team really that's going in terms of special effects.
I would think
and
so.
And maybe
right?
even like the guys that are on set that are looking at the different camera angles and helping him, see, oh, this is going to work best because this worked great in Thor 1. We tried that in Thor 2. It didn't really work out. So, we'll go back to what we did in Thor 1 for Thor 3. And you have to have the camera, these types of angles, and fight scenes can be choreographed. Oh, we have the choreographer from Avengers 1. And, I feel like they keep bringing in the people that are doing the good work. And the director's kind of there just, I don't know. I don't really know what his contribution even could be on some of these films. His hands seem to be tied in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I agree completely. The only thing I can think of as to why the special effects look worse on a film like Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther has to be something somewhere, maybe the director pushing that off as like not as important, maybe with scheduling of the budget somehow. I mean, I would imagine with a big tentpole in a Marvel movie especially that they don't have complete control over the budgeting anyways. I have no idea. Obviously, I'm not one of the directors working for a Marvel movie, but I loved Hunt for the Wilder People. It's one of my favorite movies from that year. And so I everything Taika's done, and again, I love Ragnarok, but the opening special effects and the fights at the end, the special effects, they don't look as good as the other Marvel movies, and the only thing that seems different to me is a new director to that tentpole of a movie, But I agree completely with what you're saying. I don't know what control he would really have. He's not directing the CG per se, like they have the visual effects crews doing that, but I don't know. It's noticeable. That I've most people's minimal complaints I've heard from both Black Panther and from Thor Ragnarok have been about the CG, and it doesn't make sense because I know they're as big a budget as all the other Marvel films.
Yeah. Well, and also from like a marketing standpoint, you want to keep with the same product, but you're always kind of pushing it in a direction. So maybe if they're just experimenting with different types of fight choreography and special effects and seeing
That's true.
and the way that the different camera operators are moving and the way that the direction of those camera operators and the types of lens, maybe they're trying to push it forward as cautiously as possible. because they're like, this is a winning formula, but it needs to continue to be more exciting. But what does more exciting mean in terms of a big fight scene at the end? How do we make it that more exciting? And so they're experimenting, and maybe they experiment a little bit with some of the franchises within the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they feel they can take that risk, and then maybe those experiments. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not a
I like
guy.
I like the hypothesis.
I'm trying here.
I think this is a good question to lead into from that too. Is do you ever see yourself being behind the camera instead of acting, maybe directing, or do you want to write or be a DP?
100%. 100%. I'm always writing. I put up a play when I was in New York, and that was a really cool experience. Just like producing it and directing it. You know, I wasn't in it. Well, and I wrote it obviously, but we edited it. It was a very collaborative experience. Translating that to film, I'm super inspired again by The Rebel Without a Crew. Being in the mix was something that was totally different from just reading the book or listening to the commentary on the DVD. You know, you're in it. You see how possible it is, and you see the amount of control that we do and don't have. But more importantly, how much control we do have over vertically integrating our careers, especially as an actor. We're auditioning, and then we try to get together, and we're increasingly trying to get together to make things for video, be it a web series on YouTube, Vimeo, Instagram. And so I've been putting together these little videos on Instagram. They're just 60-second videos. I have 10 of them, so that's a series.
Okay.
Now, but I keep trying to push the way that I'm using the camera, and now I'm writing a feature film that I'm trying to help. I'm trying to produce it, and I'm trying to act in it.
Nice.
Because I don't want to direct it. I don't want to overstretch myself. I don't want to devalue what a director does. I want to learn more and more about what a director does. And I don't want to split my focus either. I want to create this project and act in it and help with the writing, kind of make that a collaborative event. I have a skeletal script, and I want to do it for $7,000 and 14 shooting days, because I think that's a winning formula.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely worked for Rebel Without a Crew, and obviously for Robert Rodriguez, who's had an insane career after El Mariachi. Well, man, I hope I'm gonna have to check out your Vimeo stuff, and I would definitely like to see what comes of this feature film. But you're not done acting. Like, if acting jobs come your way, that's still where you find a lot of joy.
No, that's
and a
my
lot
career
of
as an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so people who were like, "Oh, I might cast this guy," don't stop. Keep casting him. You know, don't. He's gonna write, but he still wants to act first. With that, Jamie, I think now is a good time to lead into your top 5 all-time favorite movies. Before we do that, we like to do a spoiler warning for our listeners, because we want to give you free reign to say whatever you want about the movies that you're going to talk about. So, Corey?
Guys, you can go to burkreviews.com and check out Jamie's top 5 list. Otherwise, full steam ahead. Spoilers. You've been warned.
So, listeners, if you're not familiar, we do top 5 lists. Usually when we do our top 5 podcasts, it's me, Corey, and Mike, and we are doing a specific topic. For our interview episodes, we do all time. So our guest is going to tell us their top 5 movies going from 5 to 1. And that's kind of the gist of it. I don't think there's much other explanation. So, Jamie, we're going to start with your number 5. What do you got?
Drum roll, please. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, man, dude. The first time I saw this movie, it was like a punch in the gut. Like, especially the ending. But I want to hear your thoughts. Why is this on your top 5?
I know. I do look at it as an illusion, right? Like we're this character. We're in this insane asylum. We're trying to hack the system in a lot of ways, but we're trying to live. God damn it! You know, we're trying to. We're such passionate creatures. We're these animals that need to exist in the wild, and we keep getting boxed in. And we have these human oppressors that we try to get the gang together. We try to form these collectives, and we just keep getting broken down. But it's not a pessimistic look on all of this. It's very much like you got to appreciate the struggle. And you know, we have a spoiler alert. You know, we have we have that drinking fountain gets smashed through the window.
Yeah.
You know, and our Native American fella leaping out into the night. And I love that. I love that there is that will, that Jack Nicholson's character, he couldn't do it, and he turns to everybody because they bet him that he can't do it. He can't move this drinking fountain. It's mired into the ground. It has pipes and all sorts of shit. Yeah. And he's going to try to do it, but he knows he can't do it, but he tries, and he walks away, and he's like, at least I did. At least I tried. And there's something to that. That's at the heart of that film.
Yeah.
And Jack Nicholson
totally.
is a performer. He's one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah, and that particular performance, man, it's so tough. There's so many moments in that film that are just like burned into my brain forever, and the ending, especially with before the water fountain event, which I think we have spoiler warning, but like the whole him losing who he was, and then the pillow, man, you when it's over, you just kind of sit there silent and just think back on the film, and it's definitely a classic. And obviously a lot of people, I think Corey, you read the book, right?
I love the book.
I am notoriously not a reader.
So I read the book first, and then I watched the movie, and I just felt like they left out some important things.
Well, which is going to happen.
Yeah, when I do that, I don't know. I feel like I've only read like 2 books, I think, where the movie's actually been better. So I don't know why I do that to myself, but...
A lot of people do that. I mean, that's a staple statement, right? The book is better, but the book allows for different perspectives to be explored. I mean, if you
like movies a lot,
yeah,
it just makes...
Or if you don't like reading, either way, you know.
Word. Then you're just fine. You're just blissfully unaware.
But you like the movie, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, cool.
No, not really. John, I told you that, and I thought you were going to throw me away. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I forgot. Or I didn't. Yeah. Who knows?
No, you did this on purpose. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, actually.
But I don't think I remembered that you didn't like... Because I can see you liking the book more, but still appreciating so many great things in the movie. I mean, Jack Nicholson's performance, at the very least.
He's great, and I forget the name of the nurse, but the actress that played her did a great job.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not saying anything about the performances at all. I just... Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Let's get to Jamie's number 4.
Okay, let's save Corey's a little bit of face here. Jamie, what is your number 4?
Midnight Cowboy. Everybody's talking at me.
Hold on, who's in that one? Is that
Dustin Hoffman, John Voight?
Yep.
Okay.
This is on my it's on my gap list, Jamie. I need to watch this movie.
Oof.
Yeah, I know. It's one of several that you're... I'm so afraid of these lists because sometimes I've seen all 5, and other times I get stumped and I look like an idiot. So this is... I'm one of 2 so far. So,
I haven't seen this one either, so...
Oh.
I had to ask...
Oh, you guys!
Because my mother loved John Travolta, and all I was remembering was Cowboy, and I was singing Urban Cowboy.
Urban Cowboy, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely fired. No.
Well, it's a similar period, right? Like a cowboy in the city, and he's using his charm. He's trying to, hook up with rich women. He thinks that's his meal ticket. Out of he has a poor existence. A lot of there's this whole backstory to it that you see in these flashes, and the way that story is told is really interesting. He takes off from Texas and he's going to the big city, going to New York, and he's making his fortune. It's like the immigrant story in a lot of ways, but he's so cocky. It's that ego to him. Because he's this big hunk of meat, that women are just going to fall over. Because New York has all these queers in it, that's his whole thing.
Oh man!
And then he runs into Dustin Hoffman's character, and he's a down and out. His dad died, buffing up people, rich people's shoes. He got that black stuff in his lungs, and Dustin Hoffman's character is just he's wheezing, he's crippled, and he's the street smart guy that's still. He's just not smart enough, unfortunately, and he tries to help out. He tries to help out John, and it just doesn't go well, and they're thinking maybe Florida, maybe that's where it is, maybe that's the sunshine and coconut milk.
Oh man!
Well, spoiler alert, well, you guys haven't seen it.
It's okay.
But it's the way the story is told as well, like in the reverberations of the past, and the way you're seeing a lot of the commercialism of Times Square. You keep hearing commercials and seeing these flickering lights, gold, money, success. And it's all the stuff they're chasing, all the stuff that era was chasing, that they just they just can't get their hands on. So they experiment with drugs. They, the sexual component of what this the swinging 60s. This is in the 70s, but like the 70s is a lot about like the consequences of action.
Of the 60s, yeah.
Yeah, of living it up, of thinking you were getting to where you were going.
Man.
So it's you got to watch it.
Yeah, you just sold me. No, for real. Like
I think this will fit into next month's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully it will. Because I gotta say, I've known about this movie, but I don't think I've heard anyone really talk about it, and that's why I haven't made an effort to see it. Because The Graduate's one that I'd always heard so many people. Like, if you look on any list, people are constantly saying you got to watch The Graduate. There's so many things about The Graduate, so I made sure to get that off my gap list a long time ago. And a long time ago was like 3 years ago. But still, this is a film that I need to really go to, and I am now convinced, Jamie. So good job selling a film that probably didn't need to be sold, but nonetheless, it helps to hear someone like really like talk about it again and like express why I should spend my time on this. I wish we had something to add to it, but we don't. So we're just gonna have to move to your number 3, and hopefully this won't embarrass us like the last.
Oh no.
The Graduate can't embarrass you, can it?
It can't embarrass me, but it sure should embarrass Corey.
Bye, guys.
That's okay, Corey. We forgive you. You're gonna catch up on all this.
Yes. I've already been watching so many movies this summer.
Yeah, she's going back to college right now herself. So she's on her vacation.
You are the Graduate, Corey?
Maybe one day. Maybe. It feels like it's never going to end. But I have had this one on my list for a long time, and it just keeps.
Yeah, it's great. Like man. But Jamie, why is it your number 3?
It's number 3 because there's still 2 more movies.
Yeah.
But it's number 3, and actually I wish we were on a video Skype because I have a shirt from last year working at the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival.
Oh man,
and that was the big film at the Chinese, so they put it on our staff shirt.
Dude, that's awesome.
And
so
this is
I wear it at night now.
The second Dustin Hoffman film on your list.
Well, tremendous.
It is. No coincidence. I love The Graduate. It just talks about that period as well. I think it kind of leads into the Midnight Cowboy era.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the late 60s, so well written, directed by Mike Nichols. Yep. And it's the story. You just see it right from the opening scene on the airplane, now descending into LAX. And he's on the escalator. It doesn't even go, it's not even the stairs escalator going up or down. It's flat.
Yep.
And he's just moving along.
That's
moving along to the sound of silence, and that just tells you the whole movie. But it's not a passive status quo. It's not a passive I don't know what I'm going to do. It's very active. I don't know what I want to do. I need to figure this out. And you guys yelling at my parents having this party and all these adults plastics. It's not telling me, it's not informing me of what my life needs to be. It needs to be different. But how? How can I move forward? And everything everybody talks to him about is in the past. These are my, Anne Bancroft and her husband. The husband used to work with the dad. Dustin Hoffman's character's dad. This is how that couple's daughter. This is how she's grown up. Don't you remember her? All your friends back home on the West Coast. Are you going to go to graduate school? Because remember what you did in college. It's going to inform what you're going to do in the future. Yeah, but let's talk about this more specifically. It's an allusion to life.
Yeah.
Where some of these other films are a little bit more, talking about very specific periods of time. This is coming up with your own identity, really building that up brick by brick, and looking around for people that you can model yourself after, or looking around for another heartbeat. I feel like he's a zombie from going through all these years of school. What has he turned into? This person that he can't think for himself, he can't act for himself. He just regurgitates information, and he knows he doesn't want to keep doing that. But what does he want to do?
Yeah.
So that's why he reaches out for these relationships when people start actually talking to him, start relating to him on a more visceral level. I don't know. I could talk about The Graduate forever.
Dude, well, I mean, even
probably move on.
the last shot too of them smiling and then not smiling, like as if I finally decided to do something. but holy crap, is it the right thing? Like that, still that fear, that hesitation, just it's such a brilliant movie. There's
still that fear. I feel like I don't know if Mike Nichols said it or other people have construed it as being like a negative thing, like, oh, but he jumps from this and then he doesn't know about that, and then there's this, and now what? You know, now he's actually thinking about it. The realization is sinking in. But I always looked at it as a very much more optimistic thing. Like, yes, that's the heat of the moment. It's just like a marriage, right? Like, you're so passionate. You move in together, you get married, so happy, everybody's around you, you have a honeymoon, and then you go back to reality. It doesn't mean that, oh, now it's not so exciting, now the passion's gone, now I guess I divorce you, now we don't exist anymore. No, it's the moving forward, and he gets to have that real life, because he has that real connection.
That is a really optimistic interpretation of that final scene. I like that. I'll have to point that out to my students, because I love hearing different takes on things like that, because it's one of the best parts of that movie. It isn't like, he doesn't spell it out for us. It is up to us to decide what's next. And it's, man, definitely a well-deserved film to be in a top 5 list, of anyone's list, for sure. So I think you're right, though, because we could probably just do a whole hour-long episode on The Graduate. So let's go to your number 2.
Now 2 is another Dustin Hoffman movie. I'm sorry to say.
It's awesome.
Is it Kramer versus Kramer? Oh, Tootsie. Oh, well, I
think it's on my list.
It's almost the perfect movie. It's 2. It's so well written. It's so well performed. It has drama. It has comedy. It's outrageously funny. But it's so heartwarming and so heartbreaking in some of these scenes. You know, with a single mother, with the actor's struggle, which obviously I identify with trying to make something out of yourself, trying to take away obstacles, like, you know, Rebel Without a Crew. You're doing whatever it takes. You're always keeping active in that world to the point where it starts to change your identity, you know, and he does lose sight of that. He goes off the rails certain times, you know, and he hurts people. But he comes back to himself, and he realizes all these parts of himself that he found through becoming so totally another person. And that's the redemptive quality of the entire movie.
Yeah, I will have to admit, because I could have easily just not have said this because of the way we jumped into it, but it's literally sitting in a box to my left right now on my watch list for this summer. It's one of several movies in this box that I'm going to be watching this summer, and one that I'm super excited to get to watch. And man, Dustin Hoffman, clearly, would you say favorite actor?
I know, but I'm not going to apologize for it.
No way. No, he's great. We just watched Kramer versus Kramer about, I think, 2 months ago, for the Movie Club podcast, and that was both of our first time seeing it, and oh my god, like, that movie was just so tough to watch at times, because it is, like, emotionally gripping, but man, what a performance he gives in that movie. And unfortunately, I've heard Meryl Streep's kind of complained about him on set, like him being mean to her and kind of cruel to her, like almost method style acting on that. But man, both of them just give such tremendous performances in that movie, even though, you know, very tough subject matter. But just he's continued to impress me, because, you know, I'm thinking back as a kid. I mean, I think I saw Rain Man in the theater when I was super young, like when it came out with my mom, because my mom would take me to movies, just didn't matter what it was. Like I saw The Fly, like Cronenberg's The Fly, in the theater when I was like 7 or something like that. So, which that movie's haunting. But Hoffman.
Well, 7. An experience like that, it's gonna be haunting to a 7-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I definitely don't fault you if Hoffman is your favorite actor, but it is interesting that I'm very curious if your number 1 is going to be another Hoffman movie. Is it Hook by chance, or let's see. What is number 1, Jamie?
My number 1 is Jerry Maguire.
Oh wow. That's kind of
1996.
Totally
Cameron Crowe.
Yeah, man, that's the newest film on your list for sure. And
it is, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand with Tootsie, right?
Okay.
Because there's a comedic element to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely like these hilarious moments with Cuba Gooding Jr. Very lively performances with him and Jerry. That's where the blood's really pumping. But it's so well written. It's so tight. And it talks about, like actually a couple of these films, it talks about really reinventing yourself. like figuring out who you actually are instead of society telling you who you are. But it tells it in a very interesting way, in a way that's very it's very thoughtful. Like you have to take a moment out, and some people take that moment right after they graduate college, while they're in the thick of an industry that's not serving them. And in this case, it's a legal profession, or he's working as a sports agent, and there's something that's been nagging at him, something that's been getting him just right to the core, so much so that he has this epiphany, and he has to proclaim the fact it's not a business, and we're not going to make money by doubling down on that fact. We're not, just like with The Graduate, we're not going to double down by the fact that we have to go on to a graduate school that all these 4 years have been leading up to meet, like a pre-med or pre-law or Midnight Cowboy, where it's like I have to make this work now that I'm in New York, and I told fuck you to the dishwashing team back in Texas, or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. When you're in that new environment, you're struggling to maybe fly under the radar for a while, and then say, but no, this is not how the world should work. This is not how I feel. And Jerry Maguire does that so artfully with music, with incredible actors and performances, such an energy to it. It's such a pristine movie.
Man, that's
something about it.
That's really cool. Like, because like your middle three, actually all your first four here are, I think you could find on almost any list of like films people should watch. Even Tootsie. Well, I think because it's a comedy. I think comedies get a lot of disrespect from like critical audiences, which I think is a mistake. I think comedy is, because I think I'm funny, right? Like I don't think I'm a good comic writer though. I feel like writing comedy is the hardest thing in the world, and people who do it well don't get enough credit. And so like Tootsie probably doesn't get the respect it deserves. But Jerry Maguire on this list is kind of inspiring, I think, because you could have easily pulled another classic big film, but this is a film that I think general audiences love, and I think maybe doesn't get the attention it deserves critically in that way, like, or looked at as this serious work. And I am a Tom Cruise fan. I think Corey is the opposite on that end.
I think he's a good actor, but I also think he's crazy. I feel like those are both valid points.
I don't think those are mutually exclusive points either. So like,
yeah. So I don't hunt out a movie because I'm not like, oh my god, Tom Cruise is in this, I need to watch it. But I think that he's been really good. I watched Vanilla Sky for the first time this
Oh my
year.
god, I love that movie so much.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think that he's not a good actor, but he's just not one of those things that's going to pull me in. But I feel like this movie it was really popular when it came out, and then I think that a lot of people have forgotten about it.
Yeah, except for fans. Like there are those people like Jamie, who advocate for this film, and there's definitely still like those scenes though. Like you could put in any movie and people will still recognize what you're referencing. Like if you do Show Me the Something,
money.
Exactly, you're gonna know that. Or even the the classic line of like you had me at hello. Yeah, exactly. Man, those scenes are too iconic that you put that in anything right now, people will know you're talking about Jerry Maguire, which is not true of other films that do really well when they come out and then are quickly forgotten. Avatar. Excuse me, I'm supposed to cough while I say that.
John's favorite movie. Oh no.
So, yeah, but man, that's Jamie's top 5, everybody. And Jamie, you've been an excellent guest, and I gotta say, I love hearing your passion for film. It mirrors my own, and it makes my heart big inside, because I work, as I noted many times, at a high school, but when I started at this school, we didn't have an art class. We had a TV production program, which was basically they read the announcements on TV. And when my principal came in, I had been there for about a year before my current principal came in. She immediately got an art teacher. She put me in the TV production class, and over the last 6 years, I've turned it from TV production to film. And we have an IB film program, which is a different teacher, but she's outstanding. I want to say I'm outstanding, but I don't want to be airing it. But it just
know your worth, though.
I'm sure she says that about you.
She is my biggest advocate. Like when I started doing the Burke Reviews thing, I told her, because I'm like, I was actually going for my master's at the time, so I was doing that and doing the Burke Reviews thing, which when I started this, I challenged myself to watch 365 movies in 365 days. So I wanted my boss to know that I was going to be giving a lot of time to not work. You know, like I'm going to be going for my master's at night, and I'm also going to be watching a movie every day and writing a review for every single one of them. Are you okay if I do this? And she was like, yeah, that's amazing. And I argued, like, too, before she asked me to, that if I'm going to teach film, I need to be better at it. I need to know more about it, and I need to push myself to, like, branch out of my comfort zone, you know, because I had my taste. I needed to expand my taste, and I've done that tremendously over the last 3 years, which is why I still have gaps, though, like why I haven't seen Midnight Cowboy or Tootsie, because I'm still expanding my taste. I was in a very set style of movie in my teenage years, and I've since broken out of that. But that's what I try to instill in my students, is find something that means so much to you that you could annoy the crap out of other people by talking about it, and and that's me with movies. Yeah, it's like you just love it. And I have to say too, while we were recording, Alejandro messaged me on Instagram and told me to tell you hello. So I feel obligated to do that. But Jamie, I just want to thank you for your time, man. It's been a great episode. It's been really great getting to know you and talking to you a little bit more. I think the thing I want to end on, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, but Alejandro posted this on Instagram, so it's public information.
Yes.
He posted Tuesday in the same font style as Monday.
Yeah, I saw that today or yesterday.
I know.
So I hope, it looks like he's trying for a sequel. Are you in if it happens?
It looks like it.
Oh,
I'll have to check my calendar, but
Yes.
I think it's free. Yeah. I think I'm down to work with this guy again.
Dude, I gotta say, man, like we've got to interview some really cool directors over the last 6 months that we've been doing these interviews. Like we met director Jordan Brady, who's done mainly documentaries, but he does a lot of commercial work, and he's a stand-up comedian back in the 90s. He came up with the Bound Chicka Wow Wow. He had this whole bit on porn music, and so that, like, whenever anyone ever goes Bound Chicka Wow Wow, that was a bit from the early 90s that Jordan Brady did. We interviewed Chris Peckover, who did a horror film called Better Watch Out. It's a awesome comedic horror film it's a Christmas themed comedic horror film. It's amazing. And
I watched that today, and I felt like it was a little too early.
It's not quite Christmas yet. It will be
Yeah.
a staple for me at Christmas time, though. And then Tom E. Brown, who did Pushing Dead with James Roday, which I cannot recommend that movie enough. It's billed as an AIDS comedy. And that's all I'll say about it. It's on iTunes and Amazon now, so if you get a chance to check out Pushing Dead,
Okay.
I highly recommend.
Yeah.
But and then Alejandro, man, who is I've stayed in contact with Alejandro since I met him, and I just see so much potential in that guy, and the same passion I see now with you. Just like, it's no wonder that Monday came out like it did, because you guys are clearly serious about what you're doing. Like, you take your craft seriously, you put the work in, you've done the film studies, you know this art, and you are putting out that product, and I can't wait to see. I hope Tuesday happens. I will be one of the first ones I get to review, I hope. So
Definitely. Hey, well, thank you so much, John. I really appreciate you having me on, and you too, Corey. It was great getting to talk to you guys.
It's nice talking to you.
And just before you go, is there should people follow you anywhere on social media or anything like that?
Sure thing. Yeah, I have a page, and you can friend me on my regular Facebook profile, Jamie H. Jung. I have Instagram at Jamie H. Jung. And my website is jamiehjung.com. I try to keep it simple. And Jung is spelled Jung, like Carl Jung.
I was about to do that because I was like, we've said Jung since the beginning, and the whole reason why I said I checked my pronunciation was I was like, I got to make sure I say this correctly. Plus, I wanted to make sure it was Jamie and not like Jaime or something else. So I'm glad I got your name right, because that's a big step in the right direction.
Yes.
But thanks,
it was a
listeners.
pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, dude, thank you again. And
Thank
listeners, thank you for listening. You can follow us at burkreviews.com. And until next time, keep watching movies.